Okay.
Shall we go for it?
Yeah, let's just go for it.
I'm getting nervous now. No lippy on my teeth.
No lippy on your teeth. Not like
I can't believe we brought Donald Trump into the podcast.
When you get to my ripe old age, we're about the same age.
Well,
aren't
I'm
we?
older than you, so...
We know we've seen a few things. Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Sometimes we find barriers that we just don't know how to get round.
And I wonder how confident leaders do feel having an open and vulnerable conversation with their manager that they're struggling. I think again, it's about busting through some myths here that I think it's at every level of leadership, especially senior leaders who are struggling in the workplace. Listen, the $1 million question, did you get your mojo back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got the mojo back quite early on.
So, welcome, Clare Barnet, to the Leading Role podcast. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you very much, Liz. It's wonderful to be here with you today.
Well, now, I'm just going to start off by saying you're a legend. I do look up to you. I've told you this time and time again.
Yeah, I should have said that as a no-go area, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you should have done, yeah. But, well, I do, and I look up to you for a lot of reasons, but you were the lady that inspired me to start my coaching business. So I came to you at Synergy. You've got your own coaching business. Tell us a little bit about your business, Clare, a little bit about your career so we can get to know you a bit more.
Okay, thank you. So prior to setting up the business, I had a career in HR, and I started off in retail. I went from retail to aerospace, from aerospace to automotive, and then from automotive into a consultancy house, and then that consultancy house into an IT consultancy house. And at that stage, I was an associate director for outsourced HR services, and took a career break in '98 to have my daughter, with the plan of not going back to work full time, but keeping my hand in, dipping my toe in the water every now and again. And that was when I was working with a consultancy house and set the business up in 2003. So by that stage, my children were 3 and 5, and I realised that I wanted to manage my time much more around the children than around the corporate businesses that I was working with. Yeah. So my husband and I set up the business, which was then Synergia Business Services. We never thought about how people were going to pronounce it, so don't worry if you pronounce it incorrectly. There was a lady that I worked with for a long time called Jan, and she was always Synergia, which was fine. Yeah, everybody gets that it comes from synergy and that whole how we work together with people.
Yeah.
So in 2003, we set the business up. We renamed it in 2008 because what we realised is that my area of the business, which had really morphed from HR into training and development and into coaching and mentoring, was the area of the business that really had that ability to grow. And since that time, we have worked with a huge number of different organisations. The work that we do is fundamentally around organisational development. Our original strapline was about awaken, unlock and achieve. And this was all about awakening within people the fact that they had a potential and enabling them to think about what they wanted that to be. And then unlocking physical barriers, mental barriers to enabling them to achieve that ultimate potential. Nowadays, I talk about enabling people to be the best version of themselves, and that's just the new language around the same strapline that we had then. And the work that we do can be on a one-to-one basis, it can be on a team basis, it can be on a whole organisation basis. So nowadays, we tend to do a lot of strategic work with senior leadership teams. We do a lot of one-to-one work with chief executives, heads of school, heads of departments, heads of services. And then we also do a lot of work with team development. Sometimes it's about taking a high-performing team and giving it a little bit of an edge. Sometimes it's about taking a dysfunctional team and helping them to become more functional. We're also trained coaches. We're all executive coaches. We're also very active within the coaching world. So we've got people who are involved with the ICF, people like myself who are involved with the EMCC. And it's all about the coaching profession. And coaching is the foundation stone of everything that we do. So I have a team of associates who work with me, and we just do our very best to work with our clients in the way that they need us to work with them and deliver the services that they're purchasing from us to achieve what they desire. And that can be learning outcomes, it can be business change, it can be behavioural change, so many different things.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, we do the ILM courses, which is that leadership and management courses, but where I met you was the coaching and mentoring qualifications.
I never forget the call. I'd been out, I'm not sure if I'd actually been out to America at that point. I had. I'd been out to America to do High Performance Academy, and I came back and I thought, I really want to get into this coaching business. And we're talking 2016, and not many people really knew what coaching was at that point. There's a huge awareness nowadays. And I was just Googling around, and I was actually having my hair done. I was in the hairdressers, and you messaged me back straight away Saturday morning, and I found that really impressive. And you were like, if you want to come and meet the team, come over to us. And long story short, I signed up, and it was a fantastic experience. But I was so impressed by you and how you conducted yourself and what I learned from that, and we've stayed in touch.
Yes, we have.
Our paths keep crossing.
They do.
All that, we've not. We might go 18 months or a couple of years before we speak to each other, but we're here today, and that's why it's really great to have you on this podcast, because I know what a busy lady you are. So for you to take time out is fantastic. So thank you for that. Just so people know, you say about the ICF and EMCC. What, just for the people that don't know those acronyms, what are they?
They're professional bodies within the coaching environment. And so the EMCC is the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. And don't be mistaken by the European side, because actually it goes across the whole of the world now. And they've just signed up America this year, as an example. And then the ICF is the International Coaching Federation. And that really is a global organisation that started out in the States and then spread across to the rest of the world. Obviously, the EMCC started in Europe and spread across to the rest of the world. Two very different organisations, but they are the core professional bodies. There are other ones out there, the Association of Executive Coaches, the Association for Coaching, and others as well. So, but the EMCC is the one that I'm aligned with, and then other members of the team are aligned with EMCC and ICF and some of the others as well.
And I think it's really important to highlight those organisations, because coaching isn't governed, really, is it? And there's so many people that out there. It'd be good to get your view on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and I'll try not to get on the soapbox.
You get on it.
So, I'll say straight away, when I started coaching, I didn't have a qualification for coaching. I'd come through HR, I'd got my professional exams from that perspective, and that was when it was the IPM, which was the Institute of Personnel and Management. Now it's the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. So I was coaching through my HR role and my training and development roles very early on in my career, and finding that way to enable people to take ownership for their own development and making sure that I was asking questions rather than telling, which was tough, And I can remember winning the first contract to deliver a coaching program in an NHS trust, which is where I met Jan Spalding, who I was mentioning earlier on. And I wasn't a qualified coach at that stage. I was in doing a HR change management program within a mental health team. And I knew they were looking for coaches. And I just put my head above the parapet and kind of chanced my arm and said, can I tender for it, please? And they said yes. And we won half of it. And that was just amazing, because I designed my own coaching program and looked at masterclasses for leadership and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And when we won half of it, it was just like, wow, that was a bit strange. And that was in 2004.
Yeah.
So I started my master's in coaching and mentoring in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And really that gave me such a very strong appreciation of the importance of being qualified. And for me, this is about when an individual comes to you to be coached, they are giving you their lives and they are asking you to work with them in a very personal way. Now, my coaching is the majority of it is around leadership and management. It's about leadership excellence. And so very much in that professional world. But a human being comes to you as a human being and they are a whole person. And as much as people say, oh, we should separate work and personal life, I always use the metaphor of an aeroplane. If a plane hits a flock of birds with one wing, it ricochets and impacts the whole of the plane. So it might rock the left-hand side, but then it rocks the right-hand side as well.
I love that.
So when you're working with somebody, whether it's as a life coach or as an executive coach, you get the whole of that human being. And for me, the amount of trust that they put into you as their coach is huge. And we need to deal with that and work with that in such a respectful, careful, considerate way. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to challenge. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to say, hang on a second, let's just think about the impact of that. What are your thoughts on that? And bring that challenge to my clients. But at the same time, understanding the reasons why people behave in the way that they do, and remembering that coaching is coaching, not counselling, not therapy, and making sure we stick within the boundaries and that we act with integrity and abide by our professional body's code of ethics is incredibly important. Lots of people can ask questions. Knowing the right questions in the right way for people at the time that they sit with you and explain where they are is an incredible skill. And having that curiosity into them as a human being is so incredibly important. And this is where nowadays people say, I can have an AI coach. Yeah, you can have an AI coach. But do you know that your AI coach is basing its questions on everything that you've searched across your computer, across your phone, across all search engines? So it's using that knowledge to ask you questions. Whereas the human being coach will work with you in a very humanity-based way that gets you to think outside of those search engine boxes and start to look at life in different ways and explore different formats. AI is never going to do that with you.
And I'm with you on AI because you cannot beat human connection. No. It's, my partner will say she's on a COVID soapbox again, but the world obviously changed, but the one thing was around connection, and we need that face to face. We need, or even if it's online, that human connection, and AI will never ever be able to replace that. No. But just the organisations that you've talked about, the ICF and EMCC, I always say to my clients, go and check them out. You should always ask a coach if they are associated with any of these governing bodies, because it isn't governed and anybody can call themselves a coach. Yes. And it's frightening because, like you say, it's people's lives. It really is important. And you're right, you can't separate the two. I'll ask people questions about their goals and they go, well, what do you mean? And at home, in my personal life or in work, and I'll go, well, both, because they both, like what your values are. Yes. They kind of blend into the two. And I love that analogy of the aeroplane. I'm going to use that one. Yeah. I've made a mental note of that. If I was stood up,
I'd do the whole aeroplane thing, but I'm not, so I won't.
No, it is a brilliant analogy. So, I mean, I don't know how many people over the years that you have coached, Claire. I know that, you've worked, like you say, you touched on the education system, the NHS, a really credible master in coaching. Because that you've gone to that level, haven't you, in your coaching profession?
I hope so.
You can't. Can you go any higher with your actual qualifications?
Well, yes. I mean, I could go higher with qualifications. I could get my doctorate in coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I kind of toy with. But running the business makes it a little bit difficult to do both. So I could go further from an academic perspective. I do get involved with the EMCC and with a bloke called Jason. We run the Midlands group of the EMCC, and that's brilliant. And we have great fun doing that. I could give more, I could volunteer more and go through the hierarchy, but I'm not really the best person to go through that because I don't like restraint. I want to be flexible and I want to be able to react and deal with an individual and a situation in the way that they present themselves to me. And being ethical within that is absolutely core to who I am. But on the other side, I'm not always great at towing the line with things. So working through professional bodies at higher levels, it's not really the best place for me to be. Delivering the qualifications is where I want to be, and I think that's for me is where I add most value to the profession. Because some organisations are very much about bums on seats and kind of churning through, getting as many people qualified as possible because that's about the income that they need to generate. For me, this is my profession. The people that I train, like yourself, to be coaches are representing my business and our standards within the coaching profession. And so I need to make sure that I am enabling yourselves, any of our students to be the best coaches that they could be. So way before the ILM asked us to do observed sessions in our coaching practice, we were doing observed sessions. We made that part of the curriculum, part of the learning experience, because we knew how important that was within that learning environment. You can study as much as you like, you can write as many assignments as you like, but if you can't sit and build that rapport with somebody properly, effectively, and bring that challenge and that support in the right sort of way, it doesn't matter how good your assignments are. You have to be able to be that coach.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, definitely. So talking about programmes then, we are big fans of Brendan Bouchard.
We certainly are.
And we've had a couple of sessions working on the business. Can you remember? In Stafford, and we were looking at all the Brendan stuff. And obviously I've been out and I'm a high performance coach as well as an ILM coach from your good self and other qualifications. But you reached out around the high performance programme. So what led you to want to join the high performance programme?
So at the time, I think I said to you, I feel like I've lost my mojo. I'd had a wonderful family holiday in Australia with my eldest brother and his family who live out there. And I came back in January, and January is always difficult coming back from Australia because you come from this amazing sunshine, warm, bright, living outside most of the time environment back into a British winter, which wasn't as cold as it could be, but it's dark. And I don't think I suffer from sad, but I always find that the emotional drain of leaving my brother and his family, knowing it's going to be another 3 years before we're out there again, all of that stuff, absolutely.
That's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it drains me. And I wasn't able to get myself back onto my normal keel in the way that I would normally. And I kind of thought I need to be coaching with somebody, and I need somebody to be challenging me to really hold me to account and get me back into that. And I knew you'd been qualified in that, and I knew that because you'd trained with Brendan, all of his principles which are there and that I follow and listen to his Growth Day app every day, that would just be that additional level. So that's when I touched base with you and said, I think I need to do some coaching with you. Yeah,
and I mean, it was such a pleasant surprise to hear from you with regards to joining the programme. But what I think is absolutely brilliant is that, so the reason I wanted to highlight all of your experience, knowledge, qualifications was that you'd still got that growth mindset to say, this is where I am and I need a coach to help me get to where I need to be. And somebody once said to me once, well, you're a coach, you should have all the answers. And I actually took a step back and I was like, oh, yes, I am a coach. I shouldn't need support and I should have all the... You can't, can you?
No. As a coach, you have all the questions. That's what we have to remember. We're not there to have the answers. We're there to ask the questions. And I can remember many years ago going through bereavement counselling and the counsellor saying to me, but you know the questions to ask yourself. And I can remember saying to him, yeah, but I don't ask them of myself. It's too difficult. And that's why we have a coach, because we need somebody who's going to ask us those tough questions. And it's like cobbler's shoes, isn't it? Just because the cobbler can make everybody else's shoes, it doesn't mean they're looking after their own shoes.
Yeah.
So as coaches, we do need to think of ourselves as role models, and we need to be aware of that. And that's why I was absolutely focused on the fact that I needed to work with somebody around my purpose, my vision, realigning myself with that and enabling me to get back into the passion that I feel for the job that I do. And that's what we've done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think I've got 2 coaches at the moment. I think at one point last year I had 3. And I love it because they just hold you accountable as well, don't they? And you're right, it's the questions that we can't ask about. We could, but we can shy away from the answers, or we can just tell ourselves whatever. It's just somebody giving you, holding that mirror up, isn't he, to where you are. But also, like yourself and your programs, it's not just about asking questions. It's about giving you additional tools and concepts. Yeah. What were... From the programme perspective, obviously it's a curriculum-based programme. We've done 90 days, 12 weeks, 13 weeks, there or thereabouts. What did you find useful from the programme for you and helping you get your mojo back?
Yeah, I think the crucial thing for me from all of the work that we did together was the productivity side of it. Now, obviously, productivity is part of what Brendan talks about, and it's one of his 6 high-performing habits. And so we understand that. But you stepped beyond that curriculum as such, and you brought your knowledge and your experience into the discussions that we were having. And crucially, you know, I am the world's worst at expecting too much of myself. So that whole ability, that challenge that you brought of, well, okay, you've got these 7 different projects that you've got running at this moment in time, that Brendan would only ever say you should have 3. Yeah. And I get that. And I know that. But you've got these 7 different projects that you're running at this particular moment in time. And I've got 2 days a week that I'm working on the business, 3 days a week that I'm working in the business. You took me through, so how are you going to do these projects? And what does that look like as a time, as a percentage of your working week? And I can remember going through that and thinking, well, this ain't going to work, is it? Because I expect myself to do 110% every day. And that is an effort. That is, you know, you have 24 hours in a day. I need to sleep, as you and I have discussed many times, 8 hours of those 24 hours. So, and I don't work 16 hours a day. I might work long days, but I don't work 16 hours a day. So if I'm working 12 hours maximum, what does that actually mean I've got from a time point of view? And I don't have time to do all the things that I expect of myself. So that productivity process that we reviewed was incredibly powerful. And you were holding up a mirror, 100%, and saying, hang on a second, what does this look like? Then the work that we did that followed on from that of how do you then break these things down into their compartmental aspects, which I'd done quite a lot of, but again, allocating time to that. So I would allocate time within the diary to a particular project, but what I wasn't doing is looking at that as a percentage of my working week and understanding how much I was expecting of myself. So what that has really enabled me to do, to take that step back and think, well, I've got these 7 projects, but I've got to be realistic about what I can achieve if I'm going to do it to the quality that I want to do it. And one of the crucial things for me is we are a quality brand. We're very person-centric. It's all about the experience and achieving enabling our people to achieve what they want to achieve with the support that they have around them. So it's no good me cutting corners in launching new projects. I need to make sure that I do that thoroughly and properly and effectively. So that productivity, all of the matrix that you shared with me, that's just fantastic. And I do go through and I do look at it on a regular basis at the beginning of each week and think, okay, what does that look like this week? And I do convert all my boxes to blue when I've achieved things and move them from amber to green and, all of those things. That's been really fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing to hear, because even though obviously, as being a high performance coach, there's a lot of curriculum in there around high performance habits, but there's also 25 years experience of being in the project world. And I always make sure, like yourself, that I see the person and it's tailored to you. Yeah. And we had that open and honest discussion, and I said, Lou, I don't think some of these modules, it's like, what's the saying, teaching your grand to suck eggs.
Yeah. And I think,
I didn't want to insult. It just wasn't fit for purpose for you. Yeah. But I did highlight where I thought I could add value. So it's brilliant to get that feedback. And I really do feel it's been a partnership.
Yes, absolutely. The thing is because we both know Brendan's work, and I'm still very jealous of the fact that you've been over there and I haven't yet. But because we both, yes, it is a yet. Because we both know his work so thoroughly, I think that enabled us to work through parts of it really clearly. And that was a great support. And I didn't have to get you to explain parts of his models and his work, because I knew where you were coming from and I knew what you were doing. And I knew that was the foundation of later aspects. So yes, we did revisit things like purpose and clarity around self and social and business. And that was good to do because that enabled you to get to know me a little bit better. So yes, we had work together, but you didn't necessarily know the personal me. So that work enabled us to probe that a little bit further and to understand some of the motivations behind what I do, why I do it, how I do it. It also brought some of the challenge. Any coach out there will know what's the price I'm supposed to charge, some of the work that we've done around that. I will say to people, and I've said this to you, and we chuckle about it, I would do the work that I do and not get paid for it because I love it so much. Being able to make a difference for people is reward enough. However, like the majority of the population, we've got a mortgage to pay.
We have got bills to pay,
So I do have to charge for it.
Yeah.
But it's that understanding that goes with this and what it looks like and how that then works for my clients, and in our discussions, how that then you brought the challenge to the discussions that we were having. And
I loved it when we were having that honest dialogue, that I would say to you, just try it.
Yes.
And when I said that to you, you were like, yeah, okay, let's just test it. Can we talk about, when we talk about me challenging you as well, about the world needs to hear more from you?
Yeah.
And
okay.
that was an area that we worked on as well. So there was the partnership around the business and the project management, which is fantastic to hear. But also, there was a part where I was like, we keep shying away from a particular part of you that you're not sharing. And it's like, you've got so much knowledge. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, it is a really interesting question, Liz, because I got some feedback last week from somebody that I was doing some work with. And it wasn't too different to some of the feedback that you've given me in the past. And I've got some colleagues who will give me that feedback as well. And I love what I do. And I really want to take that out to as many people as possible and to enable them to understand the role that coaching plays in our working lives and the difference it can make to people. And combine that with leadership and management and everything that happens there. being able to tailor what we do to specific clients in specific situations is fabulous. Yeah. Talking about that and trying to share that with people can become quite difficult. Now, I'm more than happy to do it in this situation because this is reciprocity. This is about me telling your story. This is about me showing the difference that you've made for me with the coaching that we've done together. But to sit there and try and say, this is why you should be listening to me, I find really difficult. What I try to do is share knowledge and experience to help and inform and move away from what can sound like I'm so good, I'm bigging me up, because I'm really uncomfortable with that. But I'm more than happy to share with people experiences, explore approaches, if they want advice, because I do a lot of mentoring with the EMCC, where people talk to me about, I'm running my own coaching or mentoring business and I'm just not getting anywhere. Okay, so how do we build that for you? What does that look like? How do we get there? So I'm happy to share those stories, but I'm not great at putting myself out there front and foremost.
But I'm picking up on your body language.
Yeah.
I can see it right now. But I mean, that's work in progress, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not because I'm afraid of telling the story, because no, not at all. And it's not because I'm afraid of having a point of view, because no, not at all. I absolutely have points of view and I'm happy to share them. I suppose for me, humility is important. And I hope that the story that other people tell about working with us is the story that other people read when they go to our Trustpilot site and things like that. And they can gain an understanding about who we are. It is important for us to have Trustpilot because it does show to people the work that we do and how we do it. Whenever we get a recommendation on there, I always read them and find it incredibly humbling, because I'm making the difference for people that I want to be able to make for people. And it's not, for those kind of stepping into the psychology behind the work that we do, I'm very aware of things like Carla's 5 drivers. I'm very aware of things like Cartman's drama triangle, where I'm not there as a rescuer. I don't believe that I'm going to ride on in my white steed and save the day for everybody. I don't believe that. And I know that's a very dangerous thing to believe for ourselves anyway. But what I do believe is that I can make a difference for people.
A huge difference, Claire. An absolutely huge difference. But I think when we were talking about just setting up the podcast, for me, I truly believe we have to leave a legacy for the younger people. And it's important in today's leadership that we show somebody esteemed as yourself still has challenges in your personal development. Like you say, you could do the masters, but you've chose not to, and I get that. But that just shows the level you're at. There is still stuff that you feel you can work on, and that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, every day is a learning day. Yeah,
it's not a bad thing, and to be open and vulnerable and to say, I'm not, I find it uncomfortable. I think that, and we've got to normalise these conversations. And I'd be keen to know what you think about psychological safety, because I think it's a new... I'm going to say it feels like it's a new trend, it's a new buzzword, but one that's absolutely needed. Creating an environment where people can say, the world isn't perfect for me. And like I say, I just wanted to flag that as part of for the listeners to pick up on, that if you are struggling now, no matter where you are in your career, it is okay. You cannot have all the answers. I certainly, the guy that said to me, well, you're a coach. Well, at first I was a little bit like a rabbit in the headlights, but you know what? I'm okay with saying I haven't got all the answers.
Yeah. And I think, psychological safety is a really interesting concept. And I would agree with you, when you get to my ripe old age, we're about the same age,
Well,
aren't we?
I'm older than you, so... Well,
we've seen a few things. Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Along the way. And we've seen
Yeah.
a few buzzwords come and go. You know, back at the beginning of my career, it's total quality management and empowerment and all of those types of things.
Yeah.
You know, psychological safety is the current one. It doesn't mean just because it's flavour of the month that there's anything wrong with it. Absolutely not, because it's a cornerstone of coaching. But being able to create an environment where somebody can freely talk about where they are truly at. And we know that the blokes in our lives aren't necessarily great at doing that. And we also know that the pressure from our young people's perspective is that they're not always in great places, and their friends aren't always truly their friends. So that finding that safe psychological space somewhere where they can talk through the challenges that they're having. And this is the work that we do, and why we end up working with so many senior leaders and business owners, leaders of chief executives, heads of school, those types of people, is because we can create that safe psychological space for them. So what does that look like for them? First of all, you know, the confidentiality is the crucial part of it. So people feel they can share and they know it's not going to go any further. Now, as with anything, there's always challenges with that. You know, if you share with me that, you know, you've done something that's breaking the law or safeguarding or, you know, those types of things, it's not confidential anymore. It's not like confession at the end of the day, or the doctor's side of it. But at the same time, knowing that they can share something in confidence, knowing that it's a non-judgmental environment, and knowing that at the heart of the discussion that we're having is a coach who has a pure interest in them as an individual, so that they can say, look, I'm just not doing great here. You know, I know to everybody else I'm looking like a swan, but underneath I'm really paddling bloody hard to try and just stay afloat. And this is what's going on in my head, and this is my internal narrative. And being able to explore those things so that they can openly discuss them and then talk about tactics to manage themselves. And every day those tactics are building for me. I can remember a long time ago listening to a presentation in Staffordshire Association of Women in Policing. I did a lot of work with Staffordshire Police. And there was an assistant chief constable from another force talking about her journey through to senior leadership within the police. And she talked about her internal narrative. And she said at that stage, it's like having a red telephone on a desk. That's how I look at my internal narrative. And I'll let the phone ring and I'll pick it up and I'll listen to it. And then I'll say, thank you very much. That's not helpful, and put it down, or engage with it because it is helpful and I need to have this conversation internally with myself, and then put it down and say thank you. And then only a couple of days ago, somebody was talking to me about some CBT training they're going through, and they were talking about how they overthink things. And they said the CBT counsellor had said to them, when you're overthinking, just pause, take the pause, think about, I'm going to come back to this at 4:00 this afternoon. And when I come back to it at 4:00 this afternoon, I'm going to give myself permission to think this through fully. Yeah. But I'm not going to do it now.
Yeah.
And that time lapse enables somebody to get distance.
Yeah.
But it comes back to that, you know, you talked earlier on about growth mindset and that learning. And it's that understanding that our brains are our brains. And if we want to change our internal narrative, we can do that.
Yeah, it is absolutely
it's about how
possible.
we do it.
Exactly,
you know.
exactly.
And that's where coaches like yourself come in, Liz.
But don't you think it's frightening? I find it's very frightening at the moment for leaders, the pressure that they are under. And I wonder how confident leaders do feel having an open and vulnerable conversation with their manager that they're struggling. And I don't believe that we can say hand on heart that we have got a culture at the moment in the workplace where that manager knows how to deal with that situation and can provide that space for that person. And I think, you know, there is more awareness of coaching now and the benefits that it brings, but I still think there's a long way to go. and I don't believe, I think corporate companies, obviously, they're going to bring AI in. They might think it's more cost efficient, but what do you see in leadership at the moment, Claire? The amount of pressure that senior leaders as well. I think again, it's about busting through some myths here. That I think it's at every level of leadership, especially senior leaders who are struggling in the workplace.
I mean, there's so many things there for me that you look at, for example, if I dare say his name, our President Trump, and how he has shredded EDI policy, so equality, diversity and inclusion. I think that's in the corporate world, that's starting to have a significant impact, and I find that incredibly frightening. We've worked long and hard to bring true equity and equality to our workplaces, and we still haven't really got there in so many different ways. He's shredded that, and corporate America, and hence coming over to the UK, they're doing the same. So I think, number one, from a leadership perspective, that's really frightening. And I think for me, to counteract that as a leader, we need to truly understand our people. And if we can value each person in our team for the person that they are,
this is why I love you.
Yeah, then we will address EDI. Yeah?
Yeah. But how many managers actually take the time to get to know the team?
Oh, very few. I mean, there's an exercise that I do when I'm doing big group training. So 200 or 300 people in a room, and I'll get everybody to stand up and I'll say to them, okay, sit down when your answer to a question is no. And I start off with, do you know everybody in your team's first name? Yeah. I still get people sitting down at that level, which is frightening.
That is, yeah.
But they could say they've got a big team. They could say they've only just started the job. There are reasons.
At least they're being honest.
Yes.
We can't judge them for being honest.
No. I'll then ask them, do you know their partner's name? And if they haven't got a significant other, do you know what they do with their time, how they spend their time, what their hobbies are? You know, do you know the dog's name, for example? Then I'll say to them, do you know where they went on holiday last time? Do you know where they're planning on going on holiday next time? Do you know what is happening within their family, their extended family? And I'll take them through those types of questions until I've got a handful of people stood up still. And then I'll say to them, you know, how many of you are sat there now thinking, well, why are these questions important? And then I'll flip it and I'll say to them, when your boss, when your leader comes to you and uses your first name and asks you a question about somebody in your life who's important to you, how does that make you feel? Yeah? Because then most of them, not everybody, because we've got different personality preferences, but most people will say, some people will go, it makes me feel really warm and loved
I'd
and
love
cared
it.
for.
I'd be putting the hands if they did that for me.
Yeah. Other people will say, actually, it makes me feel valued. I'm more than just a number. I'm more than just a resource. So this is the crucial thing, you know. So leaders today, there's so much task to deliver that they forget to focus on the fact that there's people who are delivering that task. And if you build that psychological contract, valuing the individual, then you will all find it easier to deliver the task. Yeah. That's synergy at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spot on. It's about the programme that all my clients go through. The one thing I advocate is, look, you're going to learn a lot about yourself as we go through it, because there is different elements, and it's like, the best way I describe my programme is, it's like a recipe for personal development. So we'll focus on confidence and energy and productivity and your influencing skills, all the skills you need to be a great leader. But then what I also want them to do is think about how they're going to then use that with their team. Because it isn't just about them, it's about me helping them to perform through their teams. And it's such a quick win getting to know your team members like that. And in 5-10 minutes, you could find out everything you needed to know about that person, though, couldn't you? You know, but you've got to be authentic. Because I think people can spot BS from a mile off, but it's really interesting to get your thoughts. I can't believe we brought Donald Trump into the podcast, but good on you. No, it's I like it. I don't like him, by the way. I'm not a Trump supporter, but
I would agree with you.
I think it's an honest view. We could talk all day about leadership and the struggles. I did see a LinkedIn post today where somebody's posted it's costing business billions and billions of pounds not having the right leadership, investment, development. It's always seen as a nice to have where it should be an essential. So, we could talk about it all day. So I'll best leave that one there now. What I'd like to know is, what would you say to someone thinking about having coaching, coming onto the programme? What would your recommendations be?
I think, first of all, it's about how we invest in ourselves. So a lot of people don't put themselves at the forefront of their priorities. And so a member of their team, a member of their family might need something, and they would never question supporting that person, whether, whatever the price might be, whatever the time might be, whatever the time away from work might be, time away from the home might be. But when it comes to ourselves, a lot of people find it quite challenging to take care of themselves and focus on their own development. So I think, first of all, it's an age-old saying is you can't pour from an empty jug. Yeah, that was my problem. Mojo wasn't there. I needed to get it back, and I needed to fill my jug back up. And that's why I came to the programme. So first of all, consider yourself and put yourself at number one. Some people will say that's selfish. It isn't selfish. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. If you can't be a role model as a leader in your organisation to demonstrate that vulnerability, to demonstrate that need to learn, then actually you're not as emotionally intelligent, you're not as self-aware as you need to be. And that's another reason why you should be on the programme. So put yourself first. I think secondly, sometimes we find barriers that we just don't know how to get round. And the coach won't have all the answers. You won't have all the answers. You're not supposed to.
No.
But what you will have is you'll have a lot of questions, and you'll have a lot of tools and techniques that enable people to really start to think much more broadly. It's outside of the box, big style. You're using proven materials, proven tools and techniques. The research that sits behind the high performance coach process is huge. It's global research that Brendan's been doing over decades, and it's based in, there's so much sociology and psychology and business understanding that when they come to you, they access all of that. So I think that that's the number two, is understand that it's a robust process that has got a huge amount of research behind it. And I think the final thing is be clear about what you want to achieve with it, because that then will really enable the programme to meet your needs. And I think that's again, too often, you'll know this, I know this with some of my coachees, people will turn up and they say, something's not quite right, I don't know what it is, but I need some coaching, and so that's why I'm coming to it. Or they'll say, oh, somebody's recommended coaching and I'm a bit sceptical, but I'm here anyway. Okay, let's address that skepticism. Let's get to the goals. Let's get to the heart of what you want to achieve. So fundamentally, it is about having the right mindset, and you might not get the right mindset until you get into the coaching, but you will find it transformational.
Oh, amazing. And listen, the $1 million question, did you get your mojo back?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got the mojo back quite early on. But it was never about just achieving the mojo. There was so much more that came with it. And so when I signed up, I didn't sign up for 2 or 3 sessions with you. I signed up for the whole programme, which was 12 sessions, and I think we've had a few more than 12. But I signed up for the whole programme because I knew the value in working through all of it, not just a bit of it.
Yeah, amazing. And you just jumped in and you leant in and you really embraced the whole process. And it's just been wonderful to be working with you this year. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today and sharing your amazing insights into leadership, into personal development. You're a legend, Claire. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Liz, for asking me. Thank you for all your support and help. I hope I've said the right things. I hope I've shared the right things for everybody. But I would say, thank you to you for all of the help and support you've given me.
Oh, no.
It's much
You're
appreciated.
welcome. Thank you, my darling.